I hear a lot about this, AI is going to ruin jobs, the job industry, the labor market, the AI slop. It's terrible. It doesn't work as well as humans. It doesn't look as good as what humans do. It doesn't have the personal touch as what humans do. I mean, we've heard this every industrial revolution, every time there has been technological innovation, from the cotton gin to machinery in the factories, to automobile building, to Uber, to Amazon, everything and everything in between. I First of all, I can't stop it. It's just like, a prohibitionist trying to stop marijuana. They couldn't stop marijuana. They can't stop AI. So what do? Sit and complain about it, sit and blame all your problems on it? Or do you embrace it and try to guide it and control it with what influence you have? Or do you just sit out and do something else with your life? I mean, those are basically your three options. Anyway, some of this testimony with the Fed chairman about AI really makes a lot of sense, and I wanted to put that into perspective because it really does highlight the whole issue.
Power comes not just from a printing press, though it can be useful from time to time. It comes from our credibility to make the best choices we can, consistent with the law that you've written for us. And that credibility is bolstered if we are and are perceived to be independent. And so that's a commitment I can make to you, because that's the way we can best do our job.
Well, thank you very much. Independence is a big deal in the real world, and then certainly with the Federal Reserve. But I also have to say that there is a terror of the unknown as part of who we are. And the oldest and strongest of the human emotions is fear. It's almost the first thing we have. Even babies will jump because there's a fear of falling. Even they may not even realize they're in the world, but there's this fear. And I'm not sure what to call this, maybe AI anxiety, but I clearly have it. And it's only, my youngest son is an actor, and it would be inappropriate for me to tell everybody here to watch Sweet Magnolias on Netflix. However, I am concerned, he's concerned, as many people in that business, about what AI can do to that whole profession. But there's this fear that at some point that AI may become more intelligent than human beings, and then put us in a situation where we become obsolete. Do you have, as the chair of the Federal Reserve, concerns about AI that you wish we knew and would address?
Thank you, Congressman. This is the most exciting opportunity, but with it comes the kinds of risks and challenges that you highlight. We at the central bank need to look at these with a view towards what do they mean for our mandate? What does it mean for our expectations of inflation over the next couple of years and beyond? What's it mean for employment? You told us that's our job. And so we have to look at artificial intelligence and the surge of technology with open eyes about it. I must admit that part of these challenges, I see huge amounts of talent and thinking inside at the Federal Reserve, but I wanted to bring in some outsiders to share a view. So I've created a task force on productivity and jobs to help us think about that connection. We're not outsourcing anything. We're ultimately
Gentleman's time has expired.
We're ultimately going to make these decisions. But American ingenuity has found its way into artificial intelligence, and it's an exciting time, but one that we're not complacent about.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the chair of our subcommittee on digital assets, Mr. Stile of Wisconsin. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Walsh, thank you for being with us today. A year ago on Saturday, the Genius Act was signed into law. And with that, a series of deadlines for rules to be promulgated began and the clock began to tick. You came into your job confirmed approximately 2 months ago. The deadline for the Fed to promulgate rules is this Saturday. Will the Fed meet that deadline?
Well, it's a fair and open question. I have been corrected. I've not been in the job 6 weeks, but 7. We're racing to put that out by this deadline. I'll just add one other thing, Congressman, without taking too much of your time. I think rulemakings from the bank regulators are best when we have a family fight between and among us, so that there would be one proposed rulemaking for comment. It might not be exactly true this time, but that's my objective, that we'd be coordinated in issuing our rulemakings at the same moment.
No, I appreciate that. I think from this body, I think there's a huge opportunity with stablecoin in particular to make sure that consumers are protected. That was one of the drivers of us passing that legislation. There's a lot of work to be done. You're new in your new role with the Fed, but we would like to be updated if, in fact, that deadline is not made. And then, in fact, when those rules will be promulgated, we're all anxiously awaiting. So appreciate your attention to that. Let me shift gears. There's been a lot of talk about AI. Obviously, as any new technology, as you have said, brings forward opportunity, but also risk. One argument, of course, is the labor market could collapse. We heard that offered by a couple of our colleagues. Of course, as we look back at other technological cycles in the United States, we've actually seen standard of living increasing. Jevons paradox tells us that actually as technological cycles come through, we have opportunities for greater employment, in particular if we get the rules of the road right, as in many ways the United States has in previous technological cycles. How are you analyzing your role with full employment, in particular as it relates to this next technological wave?
If this cycle, Congressman, is like the previous positive technology shocks, the U.S. will be richer, will be more productive, there'll be more labor, there'll be more wages, there'll be more compensation. That is, if this follows prior trends. This technology shock is likely more significant. This is probably the biggest change in my adult lifetime, because it's not just the creation of a new widget. What it is, it's changing the method of innovation and the speed of innovation. And I can't think of a country on earth as well positioned to take advantage of it. So that's on the one hand, but on the other hand, it can lead to disruption. My own best guess is that the advent of the technology will be augmenting existing work, that employees that were there will be more productive. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't believe in the lump of labor fallacy. All the jobs that are there have already been created, and the technology will remove some. Well, it might be disruptive in the near term, but it'll create a lot of other jobs. Just to give one example from history, and then I'll close. Who knew at the creation of the internet that the internet would create 1.5 million Uber and Lyft drivers? I certainly didn't. So I want to be very open-minded about the job producing elements of it. But we have a day job, and it's to deliver on price stability and full employment. I've asked this outside task force of a few incredible experts to think hard about it over various time horizons, and we'll keep our eye on making sure we deliver in every one of those time horizons to ensure stable prices and full employment as best we can.
Thank you for that. I think there really is optimism, although there is downside risk. And I think one of the imperative aspects here is that we get the rules of the road right so that the innovation development is occurring in the United States of America and not offshore. One of my big concerns is how the Biden administration looked at emerging technologies in the financial services space, was that they were pushing that innovation development offshore rather than encouraging that here in the United States of America. With 30 seconds left, a lot has been said on the positive numbers that came out today. How does that shape your short-term and long-term outlook with the final 25 seconds?
So it's one data point. The reason I create a task force on data is I don't want to overread or cherry pick data. There might be some that look at this morning's data and say, oh, mission accomplished, everything is swell. That is not my view.
Thank you, cognizant of the time. Appreciate you being here today, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Okay, so my perspective on this is that we will see people becoming more independent and more capable in creating their own businesses, whereas At one time, if you wanted to create, for example, a call center, which I've worked in call centers a lot of my life, you would need millions of dollars. You would need certain staff that have certain skill sets that make a very high wage that you would need to commit to for a certain amount of time. So you would need, for example, 1.2 to 1.5 million just for the salary for 1 year of your top management just to get started. You would need, 18 times that for the callers of the call center, the actual employees making the calls. You would need, all sorts of infrastructure, and you would need lots of technology. Now, with the invention of AI, I personally have created a call center software without millions of dollars that I can make AI agents call and receive calls for me to get my business started without having daddy's money given to me, without having, multiple investors with certain particular personal or business or political interest. I don't need to compete with other people's ideas. I can just independently start this call center. I only did that as a test of what I can do, but there is a lot to say for being able to do that without millions of dollars. So there's a lot of people who say, oh, well, if it wasn't for the fact I was born poor, I would do this. If it wasn't for the fact that, I don't have great credit, or I don't have this resource or that resource, that, this would happen, that would happen. But because I'm in this position, because I was born in this family, because I don't have this or that, I can't be as productive as I would be. So I'll just show you my call center software here. I have to minimize this a little bit. So this is for both human callers, where I can create seats and assign them their positions, their phone numbers, their emails, everything. So everything gets assigned here, where they get their own extension. They get assigned a task, whether it's inbound, outbound, or internal help desk. And they get their email, they get their username, they get blended, outbound only, inbound only, internal only. So this is how the calls are routed. Anyway, I set up all this to set up seats for humans. And then I've got my AI agents where, say, there's a pandemic and everybody is sick and dying from COVID, something else, bad is happening. Well, they may not be perfect, but I can create an AI agent so that there is no, lack of employees or resources to run the business. And they do actually a great job, and I'm impressed with how well they do. But this is, let me see, hold on. AI voice seat. Yeah, see, this is where the AI voice seat gets assigned. So this is an agent, it gets created, it gets a phone number, it gets an extension, it gets a task. And this is like, say there's inbound calls coming. Those inbound calls will go to a pool of agents, and this AI agent will be in that pool, and it will be receiving those calls along with other human employees that are assigned. Outbound, inbound, or internal, that is, and whatever. So then you've got your internal email. This is where emails get assigned and managed. This is the production dashboard that talks about all of the stats of the call center, so you can watch as things are happening. These are more stats, just as your queue health. This is just saying the queue is full, the queue is empty, there's pending calls, there's whatever. So it gives you that kind of thing. And I created this myself with AI. Now, I've been programming since 1992. I started learning BASIC in 6th grade, then Visual Basic, then, Python and others along the way, HTML, CSS, Ajax, JS, Node.js now a bunch. I can do that with my own talent without using AI. And I've got proof of that for the last 20 something years on the internet of websites that I've built, over 50 websites that I've built for myself and over 150 that I've built for customers. And I've done that for years. I've done that for decades, long before AI. But AI now gives me so much more reach without having the budget of some of these very wealthy people. I don't have to be born into Trump's family to be able to start a very productive business. You know what I'm saying? I don't need Daddy Trump's money to get started in whatever kind of industry that I want to be in. And so I think that it levels the playing field. You've got rich, you've got poor, and now that doesn't really matter as long as you've got the skills to run the AI, to make the infrastructure, to make the content, to make the, you know, the things in your life happen for your business. You don't need millions of dollars now. I think that's a positive.